Chris, can you start the recording, Chris? Is it already started?
Yeah, it just started.
Okay, great. Okay, let's start, yeah. Hello again, everyone. A warm welcome to this second virtual, so-called our training sessions. So I'm your facilitator, Teck Lim, and I'll be guiding you through today's sessions on the topic of what I call that, bereavement support. Yeah. And I believe some of you may have already attended our first virtual event on July the 5th. That is on palliative care. All right. So, Chris, if you can also monitor that, right? So if anyone is not muted, yeah. Okay, so we have that program, the first program which we launched on July the 5th. So good to see you back here if you have attended that. And maybe put in the chat, if you have attended our first sessions on palliative care, just type me, all right? M-E, me. If you have attended our first sessions on July 5th on the palliative care. All right, good. So maybe attended Lydia. Okay, good. So if you attended the first sessions, thanks for coming back again for the second sessions. We're excited to continue this journey with you all. And this particular journey, we are still waiting for more to come to dial in. We have registered participants. There are 88 from 23 organizations and across the 11 countries. So let's wait for the people to dial in as well. So thank you all for your presence. And also, as we come together, we are coming together to connect, to support, as well as to empower each other. There's a purpose behind the Bridges of Hope. So maybe to start off the sessions, okay, as we begin these meaningful sessions, it's my pleasure to introduce to you someone who plays a vital role in guiding and representing our regional community in CCI. So Mr. Benson Poh is our regional chair of CCI Asia, and he has been steadfast in his leadership and commitment in strengthening the capabilities of our 53-member organization across the 25 countries. Hopefully my numbers is right because I know that the memberships keep on increasing, and really appreciate his support and encouragement in building these bridges of hope together with myself and a number of others like Usha, Chris, Dr. Rola. So we all be coming here and gonna plan all these programs for you as we move on in this journey. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming our regional chair. All right, our regional chair, Mr. Benson Poh, to deliver his welcome and opening remarks. Over to you, Benson.
Okay, thank you, Teck Lim. So hello everyone, and good morning, good afternoon, or some maybe good evening, wherever you come from. I think it's excellent opportunity that we can come together. And I think a little background about this program. The Enlace Asia was supported by La Roche-Posay Foundation since 2023. So we start with a organization assessment. At the time, we don't have 50 something yet. We don't have 43 members, and then but 35 of them they answered that they really responded on the very detailed survey for their capacity, both in the administration and the services. So it comes to from all the answers, we analyzed them. We found that there are 4 services. The most members will have the urgent need or the need to improve. So the last one we did the palliative care, and this one is bereavement. It's both on the top of the list. So that's why Teck Lim, after the analyze and the capacity organization capacity and assessment, Teck Lim lead the training portfolio and the online virtual training, and he is a professional trainer by himself by observation. So really have great help from him with leadership, with the great support of the Chris, and of course with our members, active participation of the members, and all our connections like Leigh and Lydia and Hsiang today. They are the speakers. And we are through all different connections to find the best possible more experienced speakers so they can share their experience. And then I think we have two folds in this workshop and training. As Teck Lim mentioned, that the training itself is very meaningful. You'll experience later. And then after that, actually, this is step one. After that, we will try to make another survey to see if there are members they would like to expand the service or more in depth of the service. Then we will find a mentor as matching, and the mentor will guide them again, guide the mentee to implement the service, hopefully over a certain time. That ultimately we would like to see the impact of more families are benefiting from this kind of training or mentorship. So I hope you enjoy today. So over to you, Teck Lim.
All right, thanks, Benson. Okay, so as Benson mentions about this Bridges of Hope program, right? So it is something that we are putting together, which is empowering. So building the capabilities, right, by empowering the member organizations with the knowledge from subject matter experts, and we also had the member organizations who are basically helping us to with the knowledge as well. Yeah. So it's just more than just a virtual program. If you look at it, it is a commitment to building the capacity of every member organizations, so that we can learn from each other as well. We can support each other. So this quarterly, earlier on, like Lydia was asking, is how often is that? So we plan to have this on a quarterly basis, but also depending on what could be the other regional events that's happening, right? So it can be quarterly or slightly after each quarter. So it is designed to connect us, to support us, as well as to provide the practical peer-to-peer proven strategies, which you're going to listen today. And how can we turn learning into the local actions? This is something that hopefully we will able to achieve. That whatever you learn, the insight you get, you're able to apply it back in the organizations. So today's session is on bereavement support. And that is basically, we're going to learn from the experts, hearing from our peers, and also explore how to strengthen support for families in their most difficult times. Now, before I get into the one reflections for each and every one of you, I would like to give you a heads up, yeah? So later on, we're going to have a breakout sessions after the subject matter expert presentation, as well as a member organization presentation. We're going to break you out into the different breakout room, whereby you have a discussion. And for the discussions, you have someone to guide you. And that someone is called the moderator, all right? So breakout room moderator, we will need volunteer. So later on, so give me a heads up, you got a volunteer. So Chris will help to put up the moderator brief and notes template into the chat room. And later on, you just download that and you can see what is expected of the moderator. So download it for your reference, and you'll be ready when be ready when you move it to the breakout room. So that's done. And for those who are just dialing in, we'd like to request you to rename your Zoom display name. If you can just rename it, to match your registered name as well as your organization. So this will help us to identify each other easily during these discussions. Yeah. So if you have not done so, you just do that. So as I mentioned, the purpose: connect us, support us, as well as empower us. Yeah. So that's the purpose behind the Bridges of Hope. Now, thank you for updating those names. If you've not done so, appreciate you can rename your Zoom name. Before we hear from our speakers, let's start with a quick Mentimeters activity to get us connected. So we're going to ask you basically this question. Yeah, just one word that comes to your mind when you think of supporting families during grief. So on the screen, there's a questions. Chris, our producer for today, will now launch a Mentimeter. So one is launch. You just click join and type in the first word that comes to mind as whatever response that appear. Yeah, will be on the screen itself as a word cloud. So we're gonna see a word cloud forming. So Chris gonna launch the Mentimeter, and once it's launched, just click join. Yeah, you must click the join button. All right. So a notification will pop up. Click join, and then click yes to continue. And then you just type one word that comes to your mind. All right. When you think of supporting families, during time of grief. So go ahead. If you have just look for the notification, click join. If you've not done so, click join and then type yes. So let's take a moment to look at what has appeared on the screen. Listening, compassion, empathy, right? Comfort, financial aid, support. So those are the themes that's coming up. Some more. Care, pain. Is a holding space. I like that. We have some more. Compassion, holding space, pain. What else do we have? Presence, sadness. There's a lot of words that comes up, right? So all these words capture what bereavement support truly means. It's not, you have to think about that. It's not just as a service that we are providing, but a commitment to work alongside the families with care and with humanity. So the word cloud reminds us that although we come from different organizations and countries, we share the same values in supporting the families during the most difficult times. As you can see the themes, from the words that you just shared. So let's carry these words, let's carry these words with us as we begin our session. It is now an honor and also a privilege to have with us our first speaker, our subject matter expert, to guide us deeper into the topic of bereavement support. So I captured all those are words. So let me share the screen. All right. Okay. All right. So Natalia, Donovan is a principal consultant in Thanatology at Collaboraide, with more than 20 years of experience in pediatric, palliative, and bereavement care. Her PhD research explored the needs of parents after the loss of a child, leading to the development of practical resources such as By My Side and Working Alongside, which have been widely used to support both families and healthcare professionals. So she was awarded at a Churchill Fellowship to study international models of bereavement case in the United States, Canada, the United Kingdom, as well as in Ireland. Dr. Donovan is known for championing a public health approach to bereavement support, emphasizing the role of communities in working alongside grieving families. So we are privileged to learn from her. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Leigh Donovan. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Teck Lim. Thank you. It's such a pleasure and a privilege to be here today. And I just want to fess up and share that I actually put 2 words in the meter before because I couldn't separate love and compassion. So, and that feels like a really beautiful place to start the conversation this evening with those very human aspects of love and compassion, because that's absolutely what brings me to the work that I do. It's very much a vocational practice. If you could just click the next slide, Teck Lim, thank you. So just an overview for the conversation that I'll share today. First of all, I'll set the scene with a little bit about my professional background so you understand why this conversation and this vocational life is important for me. And then move into the knowledge base that's formed between myself and many esteemed colleagues over the last sort of 10 to 15 years. And then moving into examples of the translation of this knowledge and how it's informed practice. Next slide, Teck Lim. So a little bit about my background. I'm a social worker by profession, and I call myself a structural social worker. So that's one who, when seeing and hearing the same life problems again and again from those with a lived experience, I feel the need to create a social response. My vocational journey into focusing on the care of bereaved families began in a paediatric oncology ward almost 20 years ago now. And I recall meeting a family whose newborn baby boy was diagnosed with leukemia. He was just 1 day old, and I didn't know such a thing could happen. And 3 months later, after attempts at treatment, this little baby boy died, and his family were left bereft. And so was I. What could I possibly offer this family as a social worker when their world and their future had been torn apart? And I imagine some of you may sometimes have similar feelings of helplessness at times when grief for families whose child has died is so all-consuming, and what we have to offer can feel so small. So the following conversation shares what I've learned over 2 decades of practice in clinical program and project development and research roles, working both within the tertiary health system, mostly based here. I'm sitting in Brisbane, Queensland, Australia, so in Children's Health Queensland Paediatric Palliative Care Service, and within the community and not-for-profit sectors. And all of this focuses on how we can improve our understanding of the experience of bereaved parents and respond more effectively to their care and their needs. Next slide, please, Teck Lim. So we begin with a presentation or a summation of a knowledge base that we've gathered over the last 10 to 15 years. There is a lot of information that I will share. I will share the high level in my presentation today, but I've included snaps of journal articles that you'll be able to see on the screen, and also hyperlinks. So when these slides are disseminated more broadly with you, you'll be able to go and immerse yourself in hours of reading beyond the conversation today. So I come from a place of curiosity. Australia is a culturally rich country and a spiritually rich country. And I'm very conscious that I'm sitting in a conversation today with colleagues and friends from Asia, where there is immense diversity. And I couldn't fathom trying to understand the experience of each person within the room today. So what I do when I work with people is, from an individual level, I pose this question to myself and to the other. What is important for us to know about you and your family to support you at this time? If I'm working in it with a group dynamic, developing programs, or from a research position, the question I then hold is, what is important for us to know about you, your family, and your community that may help us shape the future of bereavement care? So I'd really encourage everyone to hold that lens as I present information today that may or may not feel appropriate, relevant, or familiar for you, but please take the threads that do and that may fit with the families that you're working with. Next. So I'll begin with my PhD. So that little baby boy that I talked to you about and described, he and many other little people like him and the families I met really urged me to move into completing a PhD. And when this PhD scholarship arrived on my desk in 2012, I think it was, the title of the scholarship was, "Are We Meeting the Needs of Bereaved Parents in Australia?" So for me, there felt some divine intervention around allowing me to pour myself for the next 3 to 4 years into exploring this conversation. And the title of the completed PhD was "Bridging the Chasm Between Hospital and Home, Exploring the Experience Needs of Parents Following the Death of a Child from Cancer." And it was called that because one of the biggest themes that we heard from families was that when their child had been diagnosed with cancer, they felt their lives were very oriented within the health system. However, following the loss of their child, They felt very disenfranchised as they returned back to their homes and communities, and that link was severed between the hospital and the home. Now, I'm being very careful here because this is the experience of how we do healthcare in Australia. It may be different in countries that are represented here today. So the findings from this PhD, as you can see, were to target psychosocial support at critical interviews throughout a child's cancer care trajectory, so well before the loss of a child, but in parallel assist parents in identifying intrapersonal and interpersonal assets. So what are the strengths that they have in their lives that we can support and enable as they're moving through a childhood cancer experience? Equally, to focus on the community as an asset in the lives of bereaved parents. Next. So the methodology behind the PhD, it was a mixed method study of 119 participants within the survey, and 41 parents really generously opted into the interview. The parents were over 6 months and less than 10 years bereaved. They were all English speaking with no significant psychosocial risk factors. And it continues to be the largest study of bereaved parents whose children have died from cancer in Australia, with four paediatric oncology sites in Queensland and New South Wales participating. And I placed this quote here because this really, this voice of this mother who was 6 years bereaved at the time, she really shares what I was trying to describe before, that she felt like after her child died, all the people that she had relied on for care and support had disappeared from her life. And now what do I do? Next, please, Teck. So the summary of key messages from the PhD were the following: that the most helpful forms of support were family, friends, and neighbours. However, parents described a significant shift in the quality of these relationships over time. So, for example, many families we meet here in Brisbane, they travel from a long way to come to receive cancer care for their child, and their family and community back home really doesn't have an understanding of what that experience looks like. So when they return home following the loss of their child, it means their community is very confused and often disengages from knowing how to support them. Parents ask for support and guidance for the whole community of supporters. So that includes the immediate family, the extended family, friends, neighbours, schools, the whole network of support. Parents valued transitional bereavement care from hospital staff they know and trust, so the comfort of a familiar voice and a familiar face. The most accessed and helpful sources of formal support in the community were general practitioners, so local family doctors, and, like all of you, cancer support organisations, because you know the experience, you speak the language, and parents then don't have to explain themselves in a way they would with an organisation that wasn't familiar with this experience. And finally, and I've gone on to do a lot of work in this area, parents value the support of bereaved peers, however, ask for facilitation of these connections. So they're the people that knows the intimacy of that experience more than anyone. Next slide. Recommendations from my thesis were first, to engage, inform and educate the family's community of supporters throughout a child's cancer care trajectory and into bereavement. The second, to develop and enable professionally facilitated peer connections for parents and carers throughout a child's cancer care trajectory and extend these connections into bereavement. The third, to provide proactive transitional hospital-based bereavement care and support for families following the death of their child, and to continue to be available at critical time points in the future. The fourth, to provide a range of professional services and interventions which meets the diverse support needs of bereaved family members, acknowledging one bereaved family is one bereaved family and every family grieves differently. And finally, the fifth recommendation, to target proactive support to those parents who may require higher levels of formal and informal support. And I'll speak a little bit to that when we get onto the practice section. So something else that came out of my PhD was this concept of a transitional model of bereavement support, and there really wasn't anything existing in the literature that spoke to such a model. So my colleague, Leigh from Memorial Sloan Kettering in New York, and other colleagues here, Samar Ayoun, that some of you may know Samar Ayoun's work, and Lauren Breen from Curtin University in Western Australia, we came together, and I will share it took many years for us to finally have this article published, but we felt it was worth the push. And we finally had it published in The Lancet, which we were really thrilled about in 2024. And really what we were trying to do was to advocate on a global level for institutions to invest in bereavement care as a public health priority. And again, we return to those concepts that I've already mentioned around ensuring that there is a model for transitional care, firmly establishing bereavement care services within healthcare institutions as a standard of care, and the need to ultimately transition grieving families into their community and support communities to bolster support around the family. This is the model. You can see it if you go to the article following the conversation today. It kind of is very self-explanatory. What we're suggesting is that pre-death grief support is paramount. We've learned a lot about this, anticipatory grief and chronic sorrow in the context of paediatric palliative care. And then we complemented the model by acknowledging that over time, the role of institutional support decreases, obviously, with community-based support increasing. You can read more about this through the Lancet article at another time. So examples of how to bolster institutional and community support sit within 5 domains. This is within the Lancet article. There's way too much information to read on the left-hand side of the screen, but I pulled out some examples. So the first is preventive bereavement care, so bereavement conscious practices and compassionate communities. And the second is ownership of bereavement care, so for hospitals and health institutions to fund dedicated bereavement coordinators, and within the community to identify bereavement care champions, to ensure resource allocation for bereavement care, so dedicated funding of personnel, and the integration of bereaved stakeholders in decision-making. Fourth, to upskill support providers, so build capacity in bereavement care, and that's a word that's already been mentioned today. We're here because we're trying to build capacity and capability in bereavement care, both within healthcare, but also in the community. And then finally, to implement these evidence-based care solutions through the transition, thinking of that model, between hospital, home, and the community. In 2015, I was really privileged to work with a wonderful group of colleagues, mostly based in the US, led by Laurie Weiner. Some of you may know Laurie, to develop standards of care in pediatric oncology, and there's a whole suite of articles that were published in Pediatric Blood and Cancer. The one I was involved in was this one, the Ensuring Standards of Care and Bereavement Follow-up After the Death of a Child. Keeping in mind this is 2015, we may have made some advances then, but it still was a seminal article that might be interesting for you to return to. The suite of articles were really around hospital and institution-based support. And like I said, things have changed a bit in terms of this concept of transitional support since then. But what we found from a large systematic review was that there should be at least one meaningful contact following the loss of a child from the pediatric oncology team, efforts to remember the child through invitations to memorial services or occasional cards, and then bereavement support from the psychosocial team. Some of you may be aware of this growing advocacy around public health approaches to bereavement and palliative care. It's arisen in a way out of necessity because the health system cannot, certainly is not funded to provide palliative care for every individual in the way that is needed. So we need to return dying to the community, and with that, we need to enable communities to feel more confident and capable walking alongside the bereaved. But what we have learned about who needs bereavement support, and this is the work of Samar Ayoun again, was that we know that the greater proportion of the bereaved are very low risk in terms of any complications in their grief, and consequently only require a universal level of support. And as we move up the pyramid, the bereaved within the middle, about 30%, hold only a moderate risk of needing any additional support. So that could be in the form of peer support, which I'll speak to a little later on. And finally, just the top 10%, which is a real minority, are at high risk of complex grief issues and might need referral to mental health support. But what's happened in the past, and this is certainly what's happened in Australia, is that there seemed to be this motivation from too many people to immediately direct a bereaved family to counselling support the minute their child had died. And we've learned that certainly not every person who loses a loved one requires counselling support, and in some cases it can actually harm the natural trajectory of grief. So feel free to look more at this concept of public health perspectives beyond the conversation today. The Irish Hospice Foundation took that model of a public health approach to bereavement care and integrated it within their service response. And this, I've drawn on this many times over the years in my practice, where level 1 at the very bottom of the pyramid is a universal response to bereavement care, acknowledging most people just need the love, care and support of their community. As we move up the pyramid, the next layer of support are things like some information or signposting to referrals within the community. Further up, and it's in that sort of level 2 range that peer support and peer mentorship is something that's become a growing conversation. And then, like I said previously, as we move up the pyramid to level 3 and 4, more professional therapeutic services or specialised therapeutic services are warranted. And if you move to the next slide, Teck Lim, this is the same principle, but this is the Irish child bereavement care pyramid. So it's a beautiful way of trying to frame an evidence base around why and how we can be providing bereavement support to children and young people. And finally, in terms of knowledge, in 2018, I was enormously privileged to be awarded the Dorothea Sanders and Irene Leigh Churchill Fellowship to identify and develop guidelines for best practice paediatric hospital bereavement care services. And as Teck Lim noted in my biography earlier, I travelled to the USA and Canada, UK and Ireland, and finished in at the ICPCN conference in Durban. Some of you may have attended ICPCN. And at the end of the fellowship, and I visited bereavement services based in children's hospitals and hospices and community-based childhood bereavement care organisations in all those countries, and came away with a lot of information, which ended up in these sort of 8 recommendations. The first was to develop Australian standards and guidelines so that we have a strong reason and understanding of why we're doing what we do, to develop a preventative model of care, to establish bereavement coordinator roles in paediatric hospitals, deliver an innovative and accessible menu of care, acknowledging everyone's grief experience is different and not standardized, to integrate capacity building and program design, to ensure bereaved parents are actually involved in design and delivery so that the lived experience is informing outcomes of service delivery, to support and care for staff. We witness a lot of suffering when we walk alongside dying children and their families, and it's important to attend to the needs and hearts of staff as well. And finally, to enhance existing national and international networks. And I feel like we're kind of doing that a bit more tonight by this privilege of me sharing this information. Yeah, so part 2, just some examples of how some of this knowledge is translated into practice. So this is the pillars of support from the Children's Health Queensland Bereavement Service. When I came back from the Churchill Fellowship, I invited a suite of bereaved parents who I'd known for quite some years to form a community advisory group, and they co-designed this the pillars of support for this service. And what's most interesting about this for me is that in the past, Pillar 1, services and resources, was the dominant model of support. But what emerged as a result of gathering with these parents was a broader way of looking at how we provide bereavement support, which included Pillar 2, parent engagement, and We developed a peer mentor program, which I'll speak to soon, just to enable bereaved parents to connect with each other in a facilitated way. For bereaved parents, really to build capacity, becoming educators and advocates themselves, to continue to align ourselves in policy research and evaluation, so for continual improvement. And finally, as I've already spoken to, support for staff. Again, you can click on the link and you'll find the homepage on the internet for that service where you can read more about it. The learnings from the development of this service was that the very best bereavement care begins well before the death of a child. Only 5% of time is spent living with a serious illness, and dying and grieving is spent with healthcare professionals, but the rest of the time we know that the bereaved spend time with their neighbours, colleagues, families and friends. Also start as you intend to finish. So how you start a program, you need to consider long-term ramifications of how you do your work. I've spoken to peer-to-peer support being one of the greatest enablers in grief, and also just to really move into this movement of compassionate communities to enable communities to become more death literate. Red Kite is a childhood cancer organisation in Australia. I worked with them many years ago developing their community-based support program, where we have where there exists a telephone and email support program. This really fits within the model of a transitional model of care. So many parents in Australia now, when their child is diagnosed with cancer, they are connected with Red Kite immediately, and that organisation then supports them throughout their whole trajectory, wherever that child's trajectory moves through. It's supported and guided by social workers. Something else that they include are Red Kite telegroups, where they bring parents together over the phone and in a model of mutual aid. And then By My Side, perhaps if you just flick to the next slide, Teck Lim. So By My Side is a collection of stories of parents whose child has died from cancer. It was created in a book format, but also it's now available on YouTube and has been translated into Mandarin, Cantonese, Arabic, Italian, and Greek. This suite of stories are excerpts of quotes from my PhD. Okay, so it represents the lived experience. I've talked about peer mentorship and peer support a fair bit. When I was traveling on my Churchill Fellowship, I visited St. Jude Children's Research Hospital in Memphis, Tennessee. The most obliging and generous people, and they have some wonderful programs involving bereaved parents delivering the care as volunteers, the most significant of which is the Peer Mentor program. And they gifted me their program on my fellowship and brought it back to Australia, and we've since developed a Peer Mentor program both within Children's Health Queensland and within a community-based organisation, Ladybird Care. You can read about the evaluation of that program through the article that I've put a screenshot of there. So Ladybird Care, I just mentioned, I worked with them as a program manager to develop a community-based peer mentor program for bereaved parents whose child has died from any cause, so from 0 to 18 plus. And mentors were parents more than 2 years bereaved who've completed an interview and then completed peer mentor training. And mentees were parents who've completed an interview and then are matched with a mentor up for 18 months. And this is just, you can read more through the hyperlink at another time, but this quote from a bereaved father really sums up this experience of what it means to connect with a peer who's trained and is sitting with you as a mentor. He said, "When I look at you, I know you get me and are totally invested in what I'm telling you, and feeling understood is a profound human experience." And finally, again, in a way, sharing the voice of the lived experience. Together with Palliative Care Australia, we developed a suite of videos under the name Unmasking Grief, inviting parents for bereaved mothers to take their masks off and to share and illuminate really their experience of what it means to lose a child. We had a series of 4 co-design workshops. I'm conscious of time. We explored the following questions, and you may like to, when you see the slides, click on the Unmasking Grief and just carefully move through these beautiful chapters. We've had incredible feedback about this series where, there are bereaved parents in the community who feel really seen and heard and affirmed in their experience like they haven't been before. These are the 6 chapters. Just recently, we had a bereaved mother of 40 years reach out to Palliative Care Australia with this feedback. So for 40 years, this mother had been holding her grief with nowhere to place it. And after viewing the Unmasking Grief series, she felt like she could finally take a step forward in her grief. So in summary, the very best bereavement care begins well before the death of a child, as per the transitional model of bereavement support, bolstering support for families throughout the childhood cancer experience. Bereaved families describe their family and community as the very best place for support, yet we know the community requires capacity building to ensure they know how best to care for a family whose child has died. Peer support is absolutely a place where bereaved parents find such immense comfort and solidarity. And, you know, all of this work that we've done is embedded in co-design methodology and co-creating these services with parents themselves to ensure that we represent diverse cultures and experiences. And that's it from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Donovan. Right. Thank you so much. So much insights there, right? So now, before I want to move on, I just open this for questions. You know, if anyone have questions, I have not seen any questions in the chat, but feel free if you like to ask earlier the questions. Just unmute yourself. You can ask the questions. Yeah, the floor is open for anyone with a question.
Tell him I raised my hand. Can I ask a question?
Oh yeah, yes, please.
Thank you.
Very good.
Like, actually, I'm a bereaved father for many years now, you know, since 1998. And when my son passed away, I started the foundation, and then I started to travel. And when I talked to the social worker very experienced in Almond Street in UK.
Yes,
And
yeah, Great Ormond Street.
We tried to learn from them what to do. They said, "Wow, you're too soon. You need 4 years to overcome it." So I would like to ask you. Then we look back. Me and my wife is look okay. It's about the time, you know, 3 to 4 years. Really do a little more. So what is your experience about that? I want to your insight on that. Thank you.
It's an interesting question, Benson, because Ladybird Care Foundation was developed by a bereaved father, Wayne Pascoe. So Wayne came to me when I was working at the hospital, and he was about 2 years bereaved, and he desperately wanted to create some change, like you, Benson. He wanted to do something as a result of the loss of his beautiful girl. And it actually, perhaps I had a similar conversation in a bit of a more gentle way. So we worked together alongside each other until a time when he had the energy to create Ladybird Care Foundation, just as you created your foundation. And now I look at him, he recently marked the 10-year anniversary of his daughter's death, and he's a different man. He still grieves every day, every minute of every day, but he just has more energy and capacity to pour into the foundation to help others. So I'm not sure if that answers your question, but it's a similar experience.
Yeah, that's good. Can you introduce him to me, because I would like to know.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
Okay.
He would love it. He would love. We can talk later, Benson. He would love to meet you. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay.
Good connection there. Right. Anyone else? If not, you can just feel free to put into the chat room later on if you have further questions. Really appreciate this, Leah, for your powerful insights. This is a great reminder for each and every one of us that bereavement care begins, way before a child's death, and also it continues through the support of our families. In terms like your bereavement care pyramid, and who need bereavement care and so on, everything is so important. So this is where we need to see how we can support the families and the communities. And I believe the peer connections and also a very compassionate communities play a very important role in that. Yeah. And thanks for sharing all those examples, very practical ideas that people have already implemented on how they can support the families. So later on, we will share this particular PDF version circulation deck of the presentations. From presentation, you'll get all the hyperlink. And with all those hyperlinks, you can always click through and get more information from there. Yeah. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Building on Leigh's insights, we will now hear how bereavement support is being practiced on the ground within our region. So we are honored to hear from Children Cancer Foundation, CCF of Singapore, a non-profit organization dedicated to improving the quality of life for children with cancer and their families for more than 30 years. So CCF provides holistic support, including psychosocial services, financial assistance, palliative and bereavement care, journaling alongside families through every stage of treatment and beyond. And in fact, for SCCS, we benefited a lot from CCF as well. And how CCF get into CCI is through, CCF itself who connect us to Benson, and Benson together with, I reached out to Benson, and that's how CCF have been a great help to us as well along the journey. So representing CCF today, we have two distinguished speakers. So we have Hsiang, Ms. Liow, who is a principal child life therapist, who has dedicated over 2 decades to supporting children and families in coping with challenges of cancer, loss, as well as bereavement. So we also have Lydia Fu, who is a senior social worker who manages psychosocial and bereavement support programs for families. So together, both of them, they'll share CCS approach and experiences in providing compassionate bereavement support in Singapore. So ladies and gentlemen, please help me to join me in warmly welcome Hsiang as well as Lydia. So over to both of you, and I will stop share the slides, and you may share your slides now.
All right, thank you, Teck Lim, for that very kind introduction. And Lydia and I are very, very honored and very thankful to Children's Cancer International Asia for this opportunity to really share on this platform. And I think we are here all I want to acknowledge the collective wisdom that we all have here. And we're not here just to say that this is the way, but just sharing of our approach of how we support the children with who are bereaved. The families who are bereaved. So I'm Hwee, I'm a child life therapist on CCF, Children's Cancer Foundation, and I'm sharing. And with me is actually Lydia, who's a social worker. Okay. September being Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, I would just like to take this opportunity to really remember children with cancer and their families. Lydia and I will be sharing a little bit more about how we support the families whose child have fought till the end. Like what Teck Lim have shared, we CCF set up in 1992, and we're a social agency in Singapore. Our mission is to improve the quality of life of children with cancer, their families impacted by childhood cancer. And we do that through enhancing their emotional, social, and medical well-being. We see children and adolescents from birth all the way to 21 at time of diagnosis. The 2 main hospitals treating children with cancer in Singapore refer the patients to us, and we do work very closely with a multidisciplinary team in the hospital. Now, when unfortunately the child passes away, we continue our psychosocial support to the bereaved families, which we'll share the coming slides. So CCF adopts the biopsychosocial spiritual model of care for children, adolescents, and their families. And this just basically means we take a pretty holistic approach. We tailor an individualized psychosocial treatment plan to achieve the best possible outcomes for the families. So social workers, child life therapists, and we have therapy play practitioners, alongside with our art, play, music, animal-assisted therapists, offer a spectrum of critical service to the children through our hospital community service model that's aligned according to their continuum of needs throughout their cancer journey. Now, we are guided by various theoretical frameworks in our clinical interventions and bereavement program planning. For example, and this may be pretty familiar to many of you, the dual process of coping with bereavement, which is a dynamic model in which person oscillates between loss orientation and the restoration. There's also the warden's task of mourning, and wardens understand mourning as a process of 4 tasks. Grief does not fit neatly into boxes, and bereaved people move back and forth from one task to another during their grief. Then there's the Warfeld 6 needs of mourning, which involves cognitive task of understanding, the emotional task of feeling and expression of the loss, And finally, the faith-based or the future-oriented task that incorporates the loss that allows growth and relationship with others. For children, we tap on Webb's three-pronged assessment of bereavement child. We look at the interaction between the individual factors, the death-related, and the family, social, religious, and cultural factors. This slide you see here is an overview of CCF services and programs for bereaved families across the timeline indicated in the tiny yellow bar right at the bottom. Right, so casework and counseling, child life services are the mainstay and core services of CCF, as you see illustrated in the green bar in the slide. Now, together with the other therapies, the service extends throughout the cancer treatment trajectory, and bereavement and grief work starts prior to the death of the child and extends way beyond it. We support the grieving parents, siblings, significant others who may include the domestic helpers, the grandparents, good friends, and classmates of the child who have passed away. So we conduct house visits to have sessions with families for siblings or their parents. For parents who are not keen for us to see the siblings have sessions, we do give parents educational materials on age-appropriate normative grief expressions and adaptive coping strategies so parents can continue to support their surviving children in the midst of their own grief. We also engage the schools to support teachers, their administrators, or school counselors to support siblings and the close friends or classmates of the child who passed away. Now, before the death of the child, we try to help the families to have keepsakes, from hand casting to hand printing, making a pendant with the child's handprint. We collect, children's artwork during sessions, recording children's voices, and the list goes on. And such keepsakes helps families to have something concrete to hold on to, even after the death of the child. And of course, we try not to wait till the child is critically ill before we start all these doing all these keepsakes. We'll explore with families what would be meaningful for them so that the keepsakes and the experience of making them would be meaningful to them. Now, sometimes words are not enough, and words can be hard to find when grief is so intense. So we use a variety of mediums and to facilitate storytelling, meaning making, and expression of grief and loss for adults, children, and adolescents. Now, referring to the image on the far left-hand side most, we use therapeutic cards such as symbol cards. In this instance, a social worker, actually Lydia is the social worker who supported this family for 8 months of bereavement. And she facilitated the grieving mother to find expression of how she journeyed and found resilience. So the mother told her story of grief and growth from being in a state of blank and heartbreaking moments at the point of losing her child to cancer, going through an initial confusing period, struggling, to the knowledge and acceptance of the reality of loss, experiencing pains that come alongside with it, and before gradually adjusting to a world without their child as the heart slowly mends again, and finding an enduring connection with their child by clinging onto their religious beliefs, knowing that the child's in a good place and they will reunite eventually. We also typically use play, creative and experiential arts, drawings, images, sometimes can be scrapbooking, music, writing, to support the grieving children. We give the grieving siblings memory-making kits containing items such as the feelings jar, we have a kimochi feelings chart, invisible string book, activity sheets, clay, and these items were meant to facilitate grief expression among the children.
In addition to counseling and child life therapies, CCF also has a range of programs to support grieving families. So as mentioned, bereavement support actually starts prior to death. Our Wishlink and family photography programs, actually encourage families to come together to create positive memories and at the end of the day have something tangible to keep in the form of a photo book or video. We also have our legacy building program that aims to focuses on remembering certain talents or interests that the child has and provides them with a platform to showcase and share about them. For the purpose of this sharing on bereavement support, we will zoom in to share more about the post-death bereavement programs that we have at CCF. In supporting the bereaved, various literatures have shown the benefits of group work in providing a sense of normalization, solidarity, and opportunity for expression. Love Continues is a bereavement support group that we run for caregivers who have lost their child to cancer. It is a monthly open group, meaning participants can join as and when they are available or would like to. We typically use creative art mediums and discussion questions surrounding a topic of grief each session to facilitate the expression and sharing of grief. Since around 2 years ago, our CCF Forest Therapy Guide has also been conducting forest therapy walks for the participants to introduce another way of coping. Oftentimes, participants form new friendships there as well, which is important as grief can be an isolating journey. And sometimes the overwhelming guilt and sadness of losing a child can actually cause them to deny the enjoyment of such a thing as friendships. Because we support siblings and children who have lost a parent to cancer as well, we also have Life Connection, which is an activity-based support group for children and adolescents who have lost a loved one due to cancer. These groups actually provide a safe, creative space to build resilience, form meaningful peer connections, and find hope through hands-on experiences. The focus is not so much on talking about grief directly, but on engaging in activities together that allow space for self-expression, reflection, and support. So this is a video to introduce more about our Love Continues group with the camp. Love Renewed is a retreat organized for our bereaved caregivers and their families. It is important for our bereaved caregivers and family members to balance their grief with the need for self-care and enjoyment. It is an opportunity for our bereaved caregivers to come together as a community to build positive new memories and relationships as a group and to reduce their sense of isolation that they may experience in bereavement. Over the past 2 years, Love Renewed have been organized over a 3-day, 2-night weekend at overseas at neighboring countries. It is a time for the participants to reconnect with themselves, their family, and their wider environment. So this one, I'll share some photos to briefly share about the retreat program. We typically start off with a time of introduction of their child, which can be using various symbolic items such as figurines and cards. And then we will have a grounding activity to ease the participants into the intention of the retreat. Last year, we used the resources and items in nature as well to create a group grief mandala where the participants shared about their grief journeys thus far. We also had a segment of painting to review their year in grief and wishes moving forward. These again are some examples in relation to the warden's task of mourning, from acceptance to finding an enduring connection with their child in different ways. Next, ADORE, in short for A Day of Remembrance, is a memorial service for the children and families whom we serve. It is a special time when people gather to remember and celebrate the lives of their loved ones, as well as their courage and the love that they shared with them. It can be a healing ritual of remembrance for bereaved families, as well as other work personnel, so including the child life therapists, social workers, doctors, nurses, who cared for and journeyed with them as well. It can also be a source of closure after the death and a recognition of the relationships established between families and the work personnel. We started off organizing ADORE once every year, and currently we hold it once every 2 years. Families who participated previously actually found consolation knowing that their child had not been forgotten by those who cared for them. They appreciated this occasion of gathering with people who share in their grief. It is also an avenue for them to find space and time to reflect on their own grief and loss, and to celebrate the lives of children with cancer. The following is a video to share more about what ADORE is.
ADORE, A Day of Remembrance, is an occasion for us to commemorate the children we have had the privilege of caring for and who have touched our lives. So as all of us come together to honor the lives of our children who had so courageously lived, what is also beautiful are the connections that all of you had shared and forged over the years. Our theme this year is garden. So garden represents life and growth. And then with its plants, flowers and trees thriving and flourishing over time, it symbolizes the continuation of life, even in the face of loss, reminding us that memories and legacies endure and will remain with us throughout this garden of life.
We want to celebrate our children who have filled our lives with moments of sweetness, smiles, and sometimes tears. Even in death, we will always retain a bond with our child that can never be broken. So this bond continues in the memories that we share, in the legacies left behind, in the spiritual connections and experiences we have had with them. The time we had together and their place in our hearts will always be dearly treasured.
Thank you so much for your kind attention. I'll pass the time back to Teck Lim. Not sure if we have time for questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Lydia. Thanks, Hsiang. Okay, I think we have time to open up for questions if there are any questions you all have. All right, you can raise your virtual hand if you have a questions to ask. Anyone? Let me share this. No questions? Okay, good. Well, I'm really kind of very moved by what your CCI have been doing. So much support that we are that you have been putting in. So very much like to thank you all for sharing the important work of CCF in supporting the families through grief. So your presentations, I really find it very meaningful. How you approach bereavement care, both in a structured way, but in a very compassionate way as well, from counseling, and child life services, creative therapy. I like the forest therapy as well, right? So something that's very interesting, and everything also end up with that legacy building initiative, with your wish link as well, echoes of love, that's great. So really, really appreciate your dedications, CCF dedications, CCF Singapore dedication for showing us how programs can be designed, to honor the families. And those movies, those videos really show that, that really show that. So on behalf of CCI Asia, thank you so much, CCI, for inspiring us with your commitment for sharing best practices with every one of us. And this platform for Bridges of Hope is also a platform of connections. If every members here, you want to reach out for more information, I believe that we can also connect with each other, not only necessarily just directly with CCF Singapore, but within the whole organizations that, CCF Asia as well. Okay, so we have time to, now is the time, right, to move you into the breakout room. In a way that you're going to have take a moment now to reflect on the powerful insights we just heard from Dr. Leigh, Donovan, as well as, from Hwee and Lydia of CCF Singapore. Think about what stood out, right? What stood out to you and how these lessons might inspire or shape the work that, you're doing in your own organizations. So we're going to assign you into the breakout rooms. We will give you 25 minutes, as a breakout discussions. So once you're in the room, you'll be asked, remember earlier on, you need to find out a volunteer to be the moderator. So please be the moderator. And Chris can also now put up again the what do you call that, the brief for you all, yeah? The brief for you all, so that you'll be able to download, and then it's in the chat. If Chris, we're gonna she just uploaded that in the chat. You can just download that. So that's a moderator's brief for you to guide the discussions, and to ensure that every voice is heard and help us to keep the group on time as well for 25 minutes. There's some guided time there for you. So the template is there for you to capture all the notes. So once you're done that, try to capture the notes. Either the moderator can capture the notes, or someone else within the team, in the group, breakout group, can capture the notes, because we'd like you to submit these notes back to the CCI Asia Secretariat. So we're gonna have what do you call that? 25 minutes for the breakout. So Dr. Leigh, Donovan, Hsiang, and Lydia, they'll be joining the group as well. We're in the group as well. And as one of participants in the breakout room, myself, Benson, and Chris will maybe drop in and out of the room. So please just continue with your conversations if any one of us drop in, yeah? So before we open the breakout rooms, does anyone have any questions? We have at the moment 37 of us. And we'll see. Chris, how many rooms will we be opening up, Chris? For stepping in.
I tried.
Good. Thank you so much. Welcome back, everyone. We have more to come back. Are we all back in? 25, 26. Okay, we should be back. Welcome back. All right, I hope your discussions were engaging and meaningful, maybe a little bit stuck in the beginning. Yeah. Waiting for the moderator. Anyway, thank you so much for active participations. These small group discussions are at the heart of what Bridges of Hope intend to achieve. It's about learning together, supporting one another, and also bringing diverse voices into one shared conversation on a topic today, which is bereavement support. Yeah. So hopefully, over the last 25 minutes, you reflect on the key insights from our speakers. I also heard, I went in the room, I also heard some about the sharing of ideas and practices from your organizations. And let's see how we can strengthen, explore how bereavement care can be strengthened across different settings. Anyone would like to share a little bit some of the insights, from your group sharing? Or also any questions that you may have, let's open the floor for you all to share some of the insights or some of the what do you call it, questions that may arise from the discussions. All right. So I'll
Hi,
update.
Alapti. Yes. Hi, I'm from India.
Right.
I'm here speaking from Can Kids Kids Can. And during our breakout room, we had a lot of questions regarding how do we raise funds for the annual retreats and the activities that we do in the bereavement activities. And then how do we, because coming from India, I had a major question. If I am holding an annual retreat, how do I have everyone from different states, because we are such a huge country, come into one's central place? How do we get the funds for their commutes and all of that? And which were wonderfully answered by our moderators. And Leigh also from Mingling shared ideas from what they do. Amrita from Butterflies shared how they do it. From CCF, it was also we understood how the marketing team really works here and how they see us. And they were grateful. I'm rather grateful to them. They've opened themselves and their teams to keep sharing even after this forum ends. And then we had questions on how to approach a bereaved family over phone, over a telephone call, after the child has passed away, if the psychologist or a concerned person was not available at the time of the child's passing. And we discussed a lot of ideas that actually I have taken, like the peer mental health support for the mentors and things like that, that I would really want to implement at our place as well, with the support of my team members. And it's been a great session overall. Thank you so much for doing this.
Wonderful. Well, I'm very happy that yeah, those have sharing connections, and the most important, the best practice from some other what you call it, organizations that can also help you in one way or another. Yeah, great. Thanks for sharing that insights that you gather from that group's discussions. Anyone else like to share? Anyone have anything like to share?
Okay,
Yeah,
hi, I'm Marilyn.
Hi, Mary.
Okay.
Please.
Yeah, I think I have the idea that's shared by CCF regarding the retreat. I think I have the same question like Alapati, okay, from Ken Kids about how to raise money for the retreat. That's a good idea. And then the second question is that from our president, that is Madam Mary Q, is that how often that the bereaved parents and family should meet for a activity and a workshop instead of once a year or twice a year. So how regular it is. That's it. Okay. That's from our group. And we share a lot also from our friends that Kajal, Shivam, okay, and a few others. That's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Marilyn. And this is something is so important, right? The focus area, then the focus group. This families in grief. I think there's something that is a lot of works can be done as well in this aspect. Yeah, that's good. Anyone else or any of the moderators sort of step in to just share some of the highlights from the discussions?
I think our group, Alapati, have very nicely summarized. So yeah, but was really good discussion, learning from the collective wisdom from the different organizations, and we a little bit in addition to what Alapati says, that the public education needs to continue to go on. There's still different myths surrounding child cancer or death and grief and all, so that the journey continues on, and hopefully with greater public education, there can be also turning off the funds may come in as well. Yeah, so and it was quite a very good discussion in this group, so I really appreciate the contributions from the rest.
Thank you so much, Hussein, for leading that discussion as well. And this part of what I call that educations, right, is something that we want to build a capability within the across CCI as well. And we need the support of each and every one of you, in terms of coming forward with some of your best practices as well. Yeah, cool. Well, to you all, our moderators, either you volunteer yourself or you've been the word we call voluntold, right? You've been told to volunteer. So hopefully, that you find the leading discussions fruitful as well. Thanks so much for guiding the discussions. So just a reminder for the notes that you've just taken using the template, don't worry about anything that is going to be kind of like complete or whatever that you capture. Just submit to Chris in the email address that there's a CCI Asia Secretariat email. Appreciate all this, yeah. So as for all of us, thank you so much for engaging in the discussions. Let's carry forward these insights, and what you shared today will help each and every one of us to shape what we can do as we grow together as a region, yeah, as CCI Asia. So next, let's get some feedback from you. If you can just scan this, or I will just put the link into the chat as well. You can also click on the link in the chat. I'd like to invite you to complete this post-session feedback survey. And the important thing is that your feedback will also help us to strengthen our future Bridges of Hope sessions. If you have any comments, any feedback, I can always add into that. And also, if you come up to questions number 6, which is, would you like to request a mentor? Click yes if you see there's a need to support your organizations on that. We will try to find a fellow member organizations who may be able to support you on this topic of bereavement care or bereavement support. Yeah. If you submit that, we'll follow up with you on your needs and whether CCI Asia, whether we have the resources to support you in that. So if you're completed, just give us a thumb emoji and that a thumbs up emoji. You've done that. Thanks, Alapati.
The session is being recorded. By any chance, will the recordings be shared with us later on? I would really like to have it with me to refer to some notes and things.
Yes. It'll be shared.
Thank you. Thank you.
Shared.
Great.
So it's good to revisit the recording. Very much, I mean, a lot of insights being shared, from the Leigh, Donovan, Hsiang and Lydia from CCF, yeah. So I'd like to take this moment to thank, each and every one of you for making today's session possible, especially to our speakers, for generously sharing, their expertise and experience on bereavement support. Also a special thank to all the breakout moderators. Look forward for you to step in as well in the future for those who have not stepped in all the breakout sessions, yeah. Also, very much, appreciate the leadership of Benson. Benson has been a pillar for CCI Asia, as a CCI Asia regional chair. His leadership and support, for these Bridges of Hope as well. And most importantly, I always want to express this, this sincere gratitude to Chris. Chris, you've been receiving emails and so on. She's managing as well today, extra tasks, as a producer as well. Managing everything for the first time. We are trying to figure things out, what works well and what can be improved for the next time. So he's been planning, he has been coordinating, he'll be ensuring the smooth executions of this session. So thank you, Chris, for that. Yeah. So I think before we go, we will have what I call that now. Okay, by the way, there's just an update that there is this annual conference coming up, right? The annual SIOP International Conference. I mean the CCI annual international conference that's normally coincide with the SIOP conference, yeah. And thank you so much. Before we go, Chris would like to take a picture of each and every one of us. So if we can just put out our camera, right? On our video.